What's up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be doing a pretty big tour of the base that we have built so far, the Upper Terrace. And I want to start specifically with the oldest part of the town, which is on this side. And I want to give a bit of a backstory as we walk through of what these buildings used to look like and how they used to function when we first started. So this first section here, this wall all the way to the end used to be one massive building that I've slowly been breaking apart into multiple buildings, and they're almost done at this point. All of them have their interiors done except for one, and I'll actually start with this first building because it's a little bit easier. This is where we do the mushroom grinding, any of the things that I need to kind of shred down, and it's all scorpion themed. So it has all of my scorpion items in the chest here. I have a guy at the front here, a little armor stand with the scorpion armor on, and just a bunch of different decorations throughout this area. But the way I've set this up, I've kind of built a kind of nice lighting up top and a nice interesting roof. This was the first building that I played around with a different roof design to kind of see how these pieces could fit together to make something a little bit more unique than just a flat roof. And also the way I have this set up, of course, I can easily just jump through and grab whatever I need, and I can kick off, anything that I need to do. I can do that fairly easy with this setup. So that one has served its purpose, and it's pretty much done. I played around with a lot of the roof here, different textures. I also have some trophies kind of throughout to show which building does what, and I like the way that this one looks. It's the only roof in this area to me that doesn't just look very flat, because I have actually updated it recently. The next building, I don't have the interior finished. It will have my mic items and those type of things throughout, but it's also going to be my glue press area, and I have plenty of room in here. This building, again, used to be one large building, but when I broke it apart, this was the first one I was able to kind of play around with some of the different textures and support for the roof itself. Not the pattern, because that was the last building, but in here, just kind of getting a feel for what could I make the roof look like instead of just a flat roof, right? So this one needs a little bit more work on the interior, but the way that I broke this apart, I was actually able to build some really nice walkways integrated into some of the existing parts of the world. So this box here, kind of up above, I can easily walk in between here. I can even bring my buggies through here if I need to. It's actually really nice, and I do want to update. I have some plans for the exterior walkway here. I don't really know exactly what I want to do, but I do know I want to connect to the greenhouse eventually. So this will definitely be updated, and I do have some plans to kind of build underneath as well. But moving to the next building, I kind of split it again into multiples so you can see how close they are, because I had to break certain parts of it down to kind of separate. The next one is the smoothie station. It needs a little bit more work on the inside, and it's all grub themed, but it has every item that I need, which I don't have a ton of grub items because I haven't went and got any in a long time, but it has everything I need for smoothies and those type of things throughout. So this is kind of the smoothie building. The next one is for weevils. This one has a little bit more decorations than the last. It is also my cookery, so I have a lot of stuff in here themed based on that. And eventually I'll start to move more and more items as I get these buildings flushed out. So this one and this one look really good. I was able to kind of keep them connected still, while kind of cutting off the walkway for those kind of ovens to sit there. And I think that those two buildings actually turned out really well. The next one is the fire pits themselves. So I have this kind of cockroach themed, which I don't think I've moved. Yeah, I've not moved my cockroach parts in here just yet. But I also played around with some other type of lighting. I kind of hung this little stuffed gnat here, moved some fridges in here. I also have some paintings throughout. So all in all, this one looks really well. This was, I think, the first one I attempted to do the interior for. And I actually had these fire pits here, not the fire pits themselves, the fireplaces here in the massive build. So I wanted to keep that as much as possible when I moved them to separate buildings. And then there's a little walkway on the other side, but there's nothing there. From there, it was really how quickly could I spin up more buildings. So I placed a ton of foundations, very flat, square type shapes throughout. And this was the next building that I actually added. And it's very, very empty on the inside because this used to be my total cooking type shop. So I had everything in here. I had all the fire pits, all the smoothie stations, all the ovens. I had a huge line of fridges in here. Everything that I needed to cook used to be in this building. I've now taken everything out and moved it into the buildings that we just looked at. So this one can now be repurposed. But I played around with the design a good bit on this one, kind of adding some support type structures, playing around with some of the triangle type shapes to kind of get different patterns. And this one was kind of the first exterior type building that I played around with to try to get a good feel for what I wanted the rest of the base to look like. And when I extended from there, I built the storage room next because I needed to, of course, keep track of all my items. And this one, there's not a lot going on in here, and I'm actually repurposing this if you've seen my last video, because there's a big problem for me in this type of game. When you have one storage place and you're kind of bound to it for the distance that you can pull items, it kind of takes away from the immersion of the game, right? I don't want to just store all of my items in one place. I'd actually like to break this down and move them into individual buildings. So the idea is that this building will also be repurposed specifically by, and here's another really good example of taking those type of items out and giving them to one building. So this building is my orb weaver building. All of my orb weaver parts, I believe, should be in here. They are not. Do I have another? Oh, they are. They're up top. Sorry. All of my orb weaver parts are in here. I still have some interior work to do up top, but every building that I build, I want to have that focus. I want it to have one item that I focus on for all of the decorations as much as possible. And it can have multiple functions, but it should really serve the purpose of holding spider parts or orb weaver or wolf spider, whatever it should be, and it should be broken apart that way. And that way I could have, instead of just having spinning wheels in the orb weaver shop, I could also have another wolf spider shop in another build location, so I could have multiple spinning wheel type buildings throughout all of my base. It's kind of the full idea. But this was the first completed interior, and I actually really liked how it turned out. Because I probably spent the most time on this one out of all of them, kind of playing around with some of the different like custom windows and those type of things. So all in all, this is probably my favorite interior out of all of them. After that, I built this home here, which really needs to be updated. You can see it's very flat and incomplete. With that, it's also pretty empty on the inside. I originally intended this to be my home. So I do have my bed and things in here and easily could jump down and get water whenever I needed it. But it's a bit lacking overall. So this one needs to be revamped in a later video. The next thing is the watchtower, which I do have a video out on that one. And it was a really fun build. I really tried to make it feel as random as possible throughout, which I still have a roof piece up there to finish. But I like the way that this turned out. It really looks like a strong build, and it serves the purpose that I wanted it to, which is kind of being the lookout for the wolf spider area we put on the other side of it, which is just a ruin type area. So I kind of built out a destroyed version of the town with a bunch of broken parts, a bunch of wolf spiders, kind of throughout just to give it a little bit more lore to the city. From there, I started working on the throne room. And honestly, this used to just be a big flat box. If you've seen my first two videos, they're not my best videos. But I did build this entire entranceway in the first video, and I started building out this second part and kind of redesigning this right wall in the next video. This thing still needs a lot of work, and I've honestly thought about tearing it down in order to make the monument we'll get to in a minute a little bit more of a pop and kind of a little bit more of a centerpiece. But I think it's okay for now. This was the first one that I played around with the lighting in the floors that I had seen in some other videos. And I think it turned out really well. I like the decorations a lot. And I think this was the first one. Yeah, this was the first one I actually put down a marker with the name of the town and kind of started giving all of these different buildings some names, which I do want to go back through and update. But I tried to give this a little bit more lore as well. Like there's 2 guards, a king in the throne here, and I kind of like, it's unfinished, but I kind of like the custom window up above right there where you can see the monument behind. The only reason that looks like that is because I destroyed part of the building to do the actual monument out back. But this one turned out really good, and I think that, you know, I could come back through now and do a little bit more with the rooftop. But I do think that this one has a really, really good visual effect to it for what it is. So that was the throne room. This was going to be my drying home type building. And I started playing with some custom windows for this one. And it's okay. You can see it's obviously unfinished. Let's see. I did have a lot of room in this building, though, so I'm not too sure what I want to do with it. But I haven't really touched this one or this building, and you could definitely see this is what all of these buildings started off as, was just a flat box with some walls. And I would build these up, and I'd put a roof on it, so you could kind of see progression here, right? So this was how a build would start, and I kind of broken this down since, so it will probably be destroyed. But I would start with some support beams. I would build a wall. This type of build would turn into something a little bit flatter, maybe a little bit like this, and then it would turn into something, you know, more like the throne room or some of the others that we've looked at. The next thing that we've done is the monument, which was a really, really fun build. I wanted to make this as my first standout piece of the entire base, and honestly, you know, it still needs some work. I need to go through and do lighting, and I did leave some room in there if I wanted to come back and do some interior work, so it's empty in here. But there's just so much space, right? I tried to make this as massive as possible, tried to make it look like an actual monument. So that was a really fun build video. And off of that, I wanted to add a little bit more on the side here to kind of, 1, stop the wolf spider from coming into the base, but 2, add a little bit more lore. So I kind of made this as a ruined little walkway over to a pretty nice little gate that's kind of been blocked off at this point. That's not being used anymore. So that was also a really fun project. This entire north side, honestly, was a really fun project to do. So that is, I think, the majority of this side of the town. This was my first actual attempt at off-grid work, and it went much better than my prior video did because it was small scale. I just did a little bit of off-grid on the front entrance here, and I think it turned out really great. I mean, this is probably my favorite entranceway out of any of the things that I built. But this is the forge, so there's a ton of ovens in here that we can do the cooking that we need to, and I have a bunch of different armor stands kind of laid throughout. But this build to me is pretty close to done. I mean, I could do a little bit more as far as decorating in here, but my favorite part about this build is it is the one that I learned a super simple pattern that I use throughout most of the builds that I've been showing, which is just the pillar and the half wall. So taking that pattern as a rooftop here, I thought it looked so good. I actually went through and added that throughout a ton of my bases. So you could see that same pattern here. You could see that same pattern there and there, even up top on the walkway. So this building really opened my eyes a little bit more to what could be done in the game from a kind of creative mindset. So I really enjoyed this one. I thought this space was probably the coolest one when I first built it. I, of course, have built the monument and some other ones that I think, you know, kind of make this a little bit less of a centerpiece, but I do think it's a great build overall. This one is one of my more favorite kind of small builds. It's just a small little house tucked away. There's nothing in here right now, but some space that I could potentially put a few things in there. And it was kind of the most unique because it's a little off the path compared to some of the other ones where you just kind of walk in. And it's just a real narrow kind of house that you would see in a bigger city. So I really enjoyed kind of playing around with that build. From there, this is an unfinished house. I had also thought about making this my own building. But again, I'll probably repurpose that in another video. This building here, this kind of walkway, I spent a lot of time up here, specifically on this kind of area because I wanted it to originally be my farm area. So I built 3 little houses on this little walkway path. They're all identical. They match all the way around, and they're a little unfinished in a few parts, but they're the exact same building, kind of cookie cuttered around this entire walkway, to kind of give me some additional space to play around with later, but they don't have a purpose today. So, but I did kind of like the way that this looked out. This was the first build that I attempted to kind of copy what I showed down there and make it more of a stone building rather than having some kind of like feather or acorn, pine cone type roof. Yeah, the next one, I wanted this to be the main farmhouse. I had started playing around with some additional angles for some of these walls. I actually really like how this one turned out, and I had thought about making this. I did have a duo that played when I first started building all this, so this was originally going to be his base, but he doesn't play this as much. He's not as big of a builder as I am, which is fine. So I do have the extra space there. And this upper area used to be my mushroom farm, and now it's actually open to be repurposed, so I haven't really given it too much thought of what I want this to turn into, but it should be easily extendable, because as you can see kind of down below, I still have plenty of room to expand. So this, I'm not too sure. I'll probably add either just some decorative stuff up here or maybe a few more houses. The options are kind of open there. This was also, this next part here was, I kind of thought I might want to make some form of bridge or walkway that goes all the way to the new area that they're about to add in the next update. I believe it's either on this side or maybe right on that side of the hedge that they're going to be adding some of those new locations. So I kind of started playing around with some different designs up here. But with the addition of zip lines, this may not be something that I need, so I'm not too sure how much I want to put into that project. This bridge is just functional. I want to eventually come back and change it, but this just connects it easier from my garden area all the way over to the rest of the world. That way I don't have to like run underneath in the little opening down there at the bottom. We've done 2 other big builds recently in our last few videos. So I have this walkway down, and over here in a prior video, I realized that there was an opening in the edge underneath that I had no idea was there. So we've been building multiple houses in this area.
It's clean.
Water.
Don't worry about my minerals.
Multiple houses in this area to kind of fill in the space prior to this. So we'll start with the farmhouse that we did in a few videos ago, because it was very unique. This was my first attempt to use something other than the actual roof pieces, and I used the staircases to do something, again, kind of unique in this case. And I really, really like how this build turned out. I really like the colors of it. And this, again, is now my mushroom farm. Deal with them really quick. This is now my mushroom farm, so I can kind of come through here and do, you know, whatever I need to in this area. And I kind of left it open up here for kind of expansion if I wanted to add some additional items. But I really, really liked how this one turned out, because it was my first attempt to build something completely different with a completely different palette and kind of architectural foundation than anything that I had built at that point. But with that, as I extend into this area, I also wanted to work on some buildings under here. Out here in the entranceway. So I just posted a video of me working on these 2 buildings, and I really, really like how they turned out. And this is a perfect scenario of what I was discussing. So these builds are a bit unorthodox. They don't look fantastic during the day, but at night when the light hits them just right and you have multiple of these buildings pushed up together, they actually look really, really good together. So with that, you know, I haven't finished the interior of these builds just yet, but I do have a lot of space in there for anything I really want to put in here. And I kind of think about this as a, need to come back and finish this. I think about this as a option for me to now put one individual item in these buildings, so that way I can keep track of them easier and add additional lore to my world. With that being said, that is the entire base tour to this point. There are a few other functional things, like some elevators that I've built to get in and out of the town. but none of those things are complete at this time. So if you like this type of video, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. If you have naming suggestions for some of the buildings that you see, I'm always open to changing those to enhance the lore and the overall look and feel of the Upper Terrace. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.